Okay, so we should be live. Excellent, I'll get started. Hello and welcome to our What's New webinar series. As mentioned in previous sessions, this is designed to summarize and take you through the changes that have been made to Colleague as part of our latest release. In this case, that is 25.01.02, and it was released that went out on the 1st of February. If you'd like to ask any questions, please do so via the Q&A area in this session. If you could try and keep the queries relevant to the session, based on the features that were shown, that would be ideal. The session is also being recorded, and subscribers to the What's New series will be sent a copy of the session afterwards. So let's get started. Okay, so the key thing effectively to cover really in the session is that this is about the update that was made at the weekend. So the agenda of the session is about going through the release notes and going through it sort of top down. In terms of accessing the release notes, that's done two different ways really. One is via the notifications area. After a release, all users will always be sent a little notification there with a link to the release notes. If it's a case that you want to use it through the help file, you go to the question mark, top right hand side, click on the help file, top left hand side will be a link to the current release, the latest release, and this will be the release obviously that just went out. So you can click on that option and that will give you the release notes of the new release that's been deployed. But in terms of the functionality of this build, starting at the very beginning is the portal. So for those who are not aware, Colleague has a candidate portal and a contact portal, and that enables basically candidates to be able to log in and see their profile, update their skills, submit documents, and also as a key point to obviously submit their timesheets. And this portal was ongoing in terms of its developments. Obviously the means for them to edit the profile is a modifiable thing. Skills as well, again, that's a modifiable thing as to whether or not you want them to be able to do that. Documentation in terms of what they see, downloading, editing, again, it's all something that you can choose for them to view or not view. But effectively placements is really one of the key factors in that. From a placement, they can select the placement that they are booked in, and then they can submit timesheets. Save those timesheets to draft, add documentation, add expenses relating to a timesheet, and yeah, effectively, submit their details through, and those details go directly into Colleague against the placement and inform you that they've submitted that timesheet. That's fundamentally the main objective of the timesheet functionality. But yeah, effectively for the longest time, the portal has been a desktop UI. So with an idea of that person logging through a laptop or through a desktop PC. And what's been requested of us several times is the means for that contractor to log in through a mobile device. So if I sign out, there's now an option to switch to mobile UI. That switches the UI. In fact, if I break it out of there and minimize the screen, it's a sort of better view of how it would tangibly look like on someone's phone. But effectively the UI has been redesigned when it's in a mobile interface to adjust its resolution based on it there being a smaller width. So when someone signs in, it obviously goes through the same sign-in process, all the same security is there, but they sign in and they just see a more streamlined view. The same functionality is there, to be fair, it's just obviously been condensed to suit the format of a mobile device. So you still have the edit options, the skills are there, the documentation is there, and placements wise, it will list the placements that are available for the candidate to submit timesheets against, plus their historical timesheets, and a means for them to add timesheets as well has been done from the interface as well. Obviously, it's a more condensed view, as is the way with a mobile device, but ultimately it does give that means for a contractor to submit their timesheets through a mobile device if that's the only option they have available to them in terms of doing that. So that's obviously the update that's been made. Again, we continue to update and modify the portal based on user feedback. So continue with that feedback, please. But yeah, effectively that's the main update. The mobile device actually has. To be fair, the portal actually is set for a deployment this coming weekend. The actual code, the underlying code line was deployed with the main release, but the portal update itself will go out this coming weekend. But we've got it as part of our main release work, as this was all done in January. But that's the mobile portal, and I'll close that down. The next one along is the social media links that have been added to the CSV import process. So what I mean by that, obviously in Colleague, from the admin area, there is an import records section. And from import records, you obviously have the means to import in candidates, companies, and contacts. There is a section for sample spreadsheets. You can go through to here. It will give you these candidate, company contact spreadsheets and how they need to look in order to be in a format that you can import via this processing. But the key thing that's been done as part of this build is the inclusion of social media links at the end there. So based on a URL being in these columns, as part of the creation of the record, it will also create social media links relating to that record. And if I demonstrate it from a sample file that I've got here, you can see here that I've got a record with some information, and then I've got in this one I've got a LinkedIn profile, I've got Facebook profile, I've got a Twitter one that's been added there as well. So what we'll do is we'll import this candidate into the what's new template, we'll import this candidate into the system, and then you'll be able to see that record being created. So hit choose file there, I'll select what's new, and then I'll select validate records. Obviously it does have a check mandatory fields option as well. So if there were missing mandatory fields, because I had this set to yes, it would have highlighted any missing mandatory fields and prevented the creation of the record. If we understood that our spreadsheet was missing certain mandatory fields, but we wanted to get that data into the system anyway, then you could have set this option to no, and then that will allow you obviously to import data in bypassing the mandatory field check. But if I just go to this candidate record that we just created there, you'll see that obviously the contact information was added, but obviously these social media links were added as well, and that's the kind of key update there. So that gives them, you obviously just click on that link, it opens up the link to LinkedIn and so on, really. So yeah, that's the crux of that update. Next one along is to do with email templates, and specifically if you're selecting an email template in when you've got a single recipient. So the way that this has been working for the longest time is that when you are generating an email in the system and you select to use a template, what it would normally do is it would populate the template into the email body, and then if you wanted to see whether the text will be kind of merging correctly or if it will appear as you want it to appear, you'd use preview to view that merge field. Whereas now, if providing that the email is only addressed to one person, there really isn't any reason why you can't just have that template just converting on selection. So now when you select a template, providing you've got only one recipient, that template instantly converts now with the data just coming through into the message body. So you can then just hit send. Obviously, if the email is addressed to multiple people and you select a template, it will work as it did before. It will show the merge field, because obviously that's the merge field process will then work per record in the sending process. But obviously if it's only going to one, then it will convert on selection. And that's the email form like throughout the whole system. So obviously sending from a candidate, a company, a contact, sending out interview confirmation details or anything from a placement. Providing it is addressed to one person in the to field, it will instantly convert the template to show the data. And that was the update that was made there. The next one along is the company type option added to update fields. I'll show you what I mean by that. So yeah, it's a recent update that was made as part of the last release. You have this ability now to update in bulk. against the search results. So for example, if I select a load of candidates here, if I wanted to update these candidates with a certain update, you obviously can update in terms of adding ownership in bulk, add skills in bulk, but now you've got this update fields option. You can select there, and then the fields that you can update in bulk against this record will be listed. Obviously for any that are left blank, they just won't be updated. But if you put obviously a new update in here, whatever update is you want to select there, and then whatever detail it is that you want to update in bulk against the record. You can select those records, hit update, and it will obviously bulk update those candidates with that information that it's just deployed. So that was an update that was made as part of the last release, but what's been done in this release is we've added another field option to the company. Let's bring up some companies just as an example. So if I wanted to kind of bulk update some fields against the company, you've obviously got industry code there, but you've now got company type in there that's been added as well, and obviously martial status is there as well. But yeah, effectively that's the key update, this inclusion of the company type field being added to this area. And to be honest, adding fields to this area is relatively straightforward for us to do. So if there are other fields that need to be added so that they can be bulked to update in this section, then obviously please let us know. Just go through to the support team and just advise of that, and we'll add those fields to these areas. They're available from the candidate, the company, and the contact in terms of bulk updating records, and that's an area that will just evolve over time. So that was that update. The next update, not particularly exciting, but I'll show it anyway. That's on to do with lists. So with lists, you have and effectively you always have a favorites as standard. It's kind of like a default within the system. There's a favorites list that you're provided, or users are provided with, and then any other additional lists that you add to your user will obviously be listed below. But as far as favorites are concerned, they're kind of a separate sort of a bit like a favorites bar to any kind of additional other list. And what was happening is when users were trying to remove records from lists, it wasn't including that favorites option in the remove from list area. Whereas obviously now it will do. Your favorites will obviously be included. So yeah, effectively it will include obviously other lists that user is associated to, but also it will also include your favorites. And if you need to remove them, then you can do that there. And that's the update. The next one along, it's going to be quite kind of difficult to demonstrate really, but to sort of explain, if I open up a placement record, I mean, effectively, what Colleague does when it's forecasting values with regards to a placement is that it will look at the duration of the placement, look at the the days per week, look at the charge rate and pay, depending on it if it's a contract obviously, look at the charge rate and pay rate, the margin, and look at your charge unit, and ultimately from that it will calculate a forecasted value on the assumption that this contract's going to go full term and that the contract is going to work the hours as specified under the placement. That gives it a forecasted monetary value as that placement will be, and ultimately that's worked okay for forecasting to a degree, but there's been some work that we've been needed to do to refine it further, so that the calculation is a more accurate figure, and that's ultimately what this component was. Basically, it was factoring in hours and day fields. The new calculation will do that a lot better. And obviously, forecasting works with reporting. It works with within the dashboarding side of the system when it's giving values to placements, and that's ultimately what I'm talking about here when I'm talking about a forecasted value, just an enhanced, improved version of that forecast, more accurate version of that forecast, and that would have been deployed with the release. The next one along is WhatX. So WhatX, for those that don't know, WhatX, so Colleague integrates with WhatX, which basically enables a WhatsApp integration. And what that basically means is that when you have a mobile number, if you have WhatX obviously integrated and set up, when you have a mobile number On the record, it will put a WhatsApp icon next to that number, giving you ability to click on that icon, and it will load then the option of sending a message to that person from the extension tool, or you can obviously go to the conversation. That will give you the historical conversation that you have with that candidate. Likewise, you've got an ability within the actual UI itself to see the conversation, and obviously all your conversation history is stored as history against the candidate record as well. So there's a kind of full integration there in terms of being able to send information to, or send messaging to people through WhatX to their WhatsApp accounts, and obviously have that dialogue back and forth, and it will be recorded in the CRM. As far as the update that was done in this release, it was to do with when you're bulk updating and adding records to WhatX. So within you can obviously add records individually to WhatX from the actual record. You just go to this area and you select add to WhatX if they haven't been added there before. But if you were on a search result and you wanted to kind of bulk upload a load of records to WhatX, you can select those records off the right click menu. You've got add to WhatX contact, or it's available off here. But previously when you did this, it was done through the background service, so it'll be done kind of in the background. There'll be a bit of a delay to it, sort of 10 minutes or so before the contacts get up onto your account. Now when you do that, it will do it automatically, yeah, effectively just does it real time. Yeah, that's just an improved way of obviously uploading records to WhatX, and obviously that puts an ID against the record, syncing the record with the WhatX account, and then obviously means that history and dialogue that obviously then exists when you're going back and forth with that candidate is also then being logged against the record. If anyone's interested in WhatX, there's some information that's in the integration section about the WhatX integration. It's all in here in terms of pricing and where you go, who you speak to in order to get it all set up and in place. But obviously the support team are there if you want to ask any questions as well. Next one along is the lookup code. I mean, this isn't particularly exciting, but again, I'll show it anyway. And that's when you are in the admin area and you're looking at you're selecting a lookup code, you can now actually see the code rather than just the description. So this really is only relevant to sort of database administrators or techies. But if you are running queries in the back end of the data and you need to run queries against the specific codes, you'd run it against codes rather than descriptions. So what you can now do is see the backend codes, and obviously when you're creating lookups against the record, it creates automatic GUIDs against the code. So it just means that could now be found and seen within the interface if required. Another point that was made available was to do with the extended parameter for when sending an email, and that basically just means that when an email is now sent from within Colleague, there's now a hidden parameter, a hidden variable which allows a tech support person or someone that's monitoring the 365 Exchange to be able to see emails that have either been sent through Colleague through this interface versus emails that have been sent from Outlook. There's now a distinguishable parameter that actually will make it quite clear that obviously it's come from Colleague as opposed to come from Outlook or some other source. So that was something that was also done as well. Again, a very, very minor thing, but worthwhile for obviously techies that have been asking for that request. The rest is bug fixing, which isn't particularly exciting and isn't something that I demo, but effectively you can read through any fixes that you're waiting on that obviously have been deployed as part of the update. And that fundamentally was the release. In terms of things that we're currently working on, just to give you a heads up on that, there's several things that we're working on, but I'll give you a heads up on a couple of things that have already been delivered. One is the login history. So when you're when users obviously log into the system, there'll now be a login history table that tracks their logins and IP addresses of where they logged in from as well. But that basically just gives a means to track that. It's going to do it for the last 3 months rather than kind of indefinitely, because obviously this table then just build up exponentially over time. But effectively, the logins will be tracked over the course of the last 3 months against each user record, just so there's a means to be able to view those users that are logging versus those users that are not. Obviously, that's an option that will be made available, and that's part of the next build that will be deployed during the the weekend of, I think it's the 2nd of March is where it's due to go out the door. The other component which it's worthwhile showing is the form builder. So obviously for the longest time, colleagues' record layout has been hard coded, in the sense of when you land on a record, candidate, company, contact, you see a set list of fields, and those are just part of the system. Whereas when the form builder has been deployed, that will suddenly become modifiable. So you'll be able to choose, you're able to drag and drop these fields around, choose which fields are removed and deleted, add in dividers and widgets and other things that have been made possible as well. So there's obviously extensive work that's going on in terms of allowing for there to be customizable, modifiable forms available, and then you can assign different forms to different users as well. So different users will see different record layouts when they go into different records based on what's been configured for them to see as well. So it's quite an extensive update. It's an important one for colleague, and obviously it needs to be heavily documented, which we're going through the process of doing at the moment, and also videos being recorded about it, and people taking through obviously quite clearly how this functionality will work. It's currently scheduled for deployment, and we're lining up for it to be released as part of the next update. But ultimately, again, it'll be something that some users will want to take a look at. Others might leave alone, but ultimately it will be fully documented and part of the build, and sort of taken through in greater detail when we're ready to obviously release that to the client base. That's the full build. That's just a sort of heads up on what's also coming shortly. But obviously there'll be other things part of the build that we're working on, and I'll obviously show those in the next What's New session when we go through that. So that covers our session. If I just quickly check if there are any questions. No? Okay. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in the next session. See you again. Take care. Bye-bye.